Is it possible to be a competitive athlete without letting the sport determine my sense of worth? Can I separate the person I am from my performance in the athletic arena? Is it possible to feel successful apart from my scores and my stats and my scholarships? Well, come along as we explore those very questions on this season of the KondoSpeaks podcast. We'll be chatting with high-profile collegiate and professional athletes to hear how they have navigated the balance between performance and person. Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to the KondoSpeaks podcast powered by Agatas. And we have an incredible guest. I mean, we were talking before this thing even started, and I'm already so excited for the rest of you to get to know Les Thomas here in just a few moments. He is dad, he is husband, he is a speaker, he is an author, he is the Oklahoma State University hype man. He served in the military. I mean, he is a man who has done absolutely everything imaginable, and we are so thrilled to spend some time with him. Les, thanks so much for being with us.
Hey, what's up, my man? I'm so glad and feel honored to be on, man. Today is a great day.
Yes, sir. Hey, even just reading a little bit of your bio, some of the things that you've done, some of the things that you are doing now, from musician to author to speaker to hype man, every indication would say you've made it, man. You're living the dream. You are doing the things that so many people aspire to get to. And it may even be tempting to say, man, you were handed some success. Congratulations. But truth of the matter is, it's been a journey, man. This wasn't handed to you. The journey to this point wasn't without obstacles. Man, keen to just hear you maybe tell a little of your story. What has led you to this place? I know it's not been easy.
Yeah, not at all, man. My childhood, I had pretty much a trauma-filled childhood. Man, I'll just kind of tell you, parents got a divorce at the age of 3, so I was raised by a single parent home, and we didn't have many resources. And when you live in a neighborhood with a lack of resources, we know what that produced: a lot of crime, drug use, and all that type of thing. If you remember the show Cops, a segment of that was recorded in my neighborhood. So that will tell you, right across the street from my home, I remember the cameras and the police running and everything. So that tells you what type of environment I grew up in. Failed the 5th grade, man, ended up getting kicked out of school in the 7th grade. Had a speech impediment, so you already know what that was like growing up in the type of neighborhood I grew up in. I was the butt end of every joke. But through all of that, I had a God-fearing mother who I watched get on her knees and pray to God, no matter if our electricity was on, if we didn't have rice, if we didn't have sugar, if we didn't have water. It did not matter if we were in a hotel, motel, roach tail, whatever we were in. This woman pulled out her Bible and she prayed every night. And I would say that my biggest takeaway from my childhood, even though I experienced a lot. I experienced even a shooting at the age of 7. I would say the biggest takeaway is in the midst of all of that, my mother always spoke to where she saw me going and not what I was in that moment. Right. And so, for instance, when I failed the 5th grade, I remember looking at this pink piece of paper and my mother's crying, I'm crying, and I'm feeling like I failed my mother. And, she looked at me and said that moment would not define me. And she was like, I would do great things. And she said, it's going to be okay. You are intelligent. You are smart. God has called you to do great things. Like, so even in that moment when she could have chastised me, right, she could have brought correction, which, I did. Don't get it twisted. There was repercussions for my actions. However, she made sure to surround it with love, encouragement, and let me know that my identity wasn't in that situation, right? And so having a mother like that, then I go on and got put out of school in the 7th grade, and I'll just tell you this real quick so people will know. Like, people always want to celebrate the amazing things, which that's cool, but I think it's important for people to know the foundation that was laid, that through the valley, the foundation of God was laid in my life through the valley, right? Being an adolescent kid. And I'll just share one story with you. My mother and I were standing before a judge. A few friends of mine, we got into some trouble, and my mother didn't ask for permission. She just, while the judge was sentencing me, my mom just interrupted, grabbed my face, got about 6 inches from my face, man. And she said, "This moment will not define you. God has called you to greatness. I have known since you were in my womb that you were going to do
Oof.
great things on this earth." Then she said, "I rebuke Satan off your life. You will do great things." Now, when she said that, tears is in my mother's eyes, tears is in my eyes, and you can hear a pin drop. Like it seemed like it was quiet for eternity, right? Just forever. But in that moment created hope,
Mm.
because here it is. I'm in a hopeless situation. I'm growing up in an environment where nothing around me was great. But this woman had the faith to say, "You're called to do something great."
Mm.
She had the faith to say that hope is here, and just created you see, it says hope on my hoodie. I'm the hype man of
I
hope.
love
People
it.
think I'm the hype man at OSU, but really I'm a hype man of hope, because God
Oof.
has really fulfilled so many things that was spoken over my life through my mother, and the faith that she had in me through those challenging times. Man, I would tell you that I would not be the man that I am today if my mother was not intentional with me. So parents, be
Yeah.
intentional with your babies, and do not allow that mistake to define them, because they did what you said they did, but they're not who you say they are.
Oh
They're
man.
God's child. Come on, somebody. Don't mess
Woo!
with me today, Kondo. Come on.
Oh, come on. I need an amen button on here somewhere. That is incredible. I gotta ask you. You are describing a moment in a courtroom where your mother spoke verbally, and the people could hear it. She wasn't just whispering to you.
No,
She
out loud.
spoke the words, and they reverberated in that room.
Absolutely. It reverberated. It was quiet. Even the
Woo.
judge stopped speaking. And then the judge had tears in her eyes, and she said, "You obviously have a mother that loves you." So in that moment, it was hard for the judge to hammer me, because anyone, I mean, like, that's speaking in authority. Like
Yeah.
that was like an
Yes.
anointed moment where
Yeah.
my mother took authority. Of course, the authority that God placed in her took authority over a courtroom where she had no authority. That's God. And she spoke those
It's
things in front of
amazing.
everyone. So, I'm thankful for that moment, because again, that moment right there made it where hope became an anchor for my life. And I could tell you, from that moment forward, I never got in any real trouble after that. I never got in trouble with the laws ever again after that moment.
Man,
Ever.
that's incredible. So again, you heard her in that moment. It's not like that moment was marked and I bookmarked that in my heart, came back to it later on. While she was speaking, tears, you heard it, you felt it, and that was a pivotal moment, obviously, from what you're describing.
Absolutely. And it's something that still reverberates through my life right now. I am a product of seeing a woman that didn't have much give everything she had. So through all of that time, my mom was the youth minister. She was the one,
Mm.
speaking to the students and the young people. We grew up Kojic, Church of God in Christ. You had Sunshine Band Purity and all that type of stuff. My mother was the leader in all of that, right? And so
Wow.
I just grew up around that. I tell people, that I was a drug baby. My mom drugged me to church, right? She drugged me to church 8 days a week. I know it's only 7 days a week, but it seemed like we was in church every
Amazing.
day. And I played the
Amazing.
drums, so my mom just cultivated that. Even
Mm.
though I was going through those challenges, my mom cultivated that. And in that moment, she knew that that was a crossroad, right? That was
Mm.
a crossroad moment where she could either speak life, or she could say, "Well, you got yourself into this. You got to get yourself out," which some parents say to kids, right? But she didn't. She took authority and spoke, you know, faith.
That's incredible. I so many things to talk about, and even directions to go from that absolutely epic marking moment in your story, but it's just that much more special to see the way that you've carried the mantle and the legacy when it comes to speaking life and speaking hope into youth. You are doing some incredible things in the music world, and and you're speaking in a variety of different places, but I know a big heartbeat for you is teens who are experiencing challenges, and here you come to speak the same hope that your mother spoke to you, to say this doesn't get to define you, this doesn't get to have the last word, it's not about your environment ultimately. So what was the journey that's led from the moment of your mom speaking those words to now, come on, Les, you are speaking those words into generations, and you are
Yes.
part of so many kids who will look back and tell the story about how you were that voice reverberating in their lives. What led you to that in terms of maybe some of the
Yeah.
key events?
Well, I would just say that moment empowered me and gave me hope, right? And so I would say in my early 20s, I went through my teenage years. Then, I got married to my wife, amazing wife that I have right now. We've been married for 23 years.
Oh
And I
man,
had to go through the growing pains of, learning what it meant to be a husband, a father, priest, provider,
without seeing
protector.
that modeled, yeah.
It was maybe five fathers in a neighborhood of 200 homes. So
Mm,
I didn't have that model. And so
mm,
my wife and I went through the growing pains of learning how to, me learning how to lead and how to make decisions and how to be godly led. And at that time, I wasn't in church, and my mother and my wife were just praying. And I'll just tell you this: my wife, you know, just for the wives to listen while you're out there listening,
mm.
my wife, she started, praying for me in my sleep. She started I'm just telling you what my wife did. She started anointing my shoes, my toothbrush. And while I was asleep, I would wake up and go to the bathroom, and I'm thinking that it's saliva on my forehead. And I eventually realized that this woman is praying for me at night.
Amazing,
That's how much. So I went from a mother activating faith to my
amazing.
to my wife activating faith. And then sitting in my living room, I remember turning through the channels, TBN. I never watched TBN. TBN came on, and there was a pastor on there, and giving the gospel. And all I remember is, Kondo, I ended up on my face, laid out before God, repenting and weeping and asking Him to come into my heart. So I didn't get saved through the traditional way of the altar. It was right in my apartment, in the middle of my mess, and understanding that it was no way out by myself. And God saved me in that moment. And I'll tell you, it was
Mm,
almost like the hope between my mother and my wife was laying there dormant. It
yeah.
was the seed, and then that moment activated the seed, brother.
Oof.
Like it was like everything was there. Everything you
Yeah.
need to make a house was there. Only thing it needed was the water. And so when I gave my life to God, gave my life to Jesus, in that moment it activated. And Kondo, it's amazing how fast that was. December of 2002. It's amazing how fast everything took off. I went from that to 2004. I'm ordained minister. I started doing Christian rap in 2003, 2004. Started traveling and became a national recording artist by 2006, doing Christian hip hop, traveling all across the country. And back then, people didn't understand that I was with the Lecrae's, I was with
Mm,
Tadashi, I was with Reach, I was with all of them. That was like Oklahoma was I wouldn't say it was a Christian rap mecca, but right here in Oklahoma, we have so many amazing artists, and Lecrae and Tadashi and all them were just right there in Texas, right, 3 hours from us.
yeah.
And so, anyway, uh, that became an outlet for me because God has, blessed me with, a few different gifts, and that was one of them. Music was one of them. And I always looked at it as like an alternative for young people to listen to the genre that they like.
Yeah.
Hip hop at that time, it was already huge, but it was still growing. But what it was is like, if I love hip hop, but I don't want to feed myself this negative stuff, what's the alternative? So the music we provided was alternative music that was all about Jesus. So it's like, while you getting this boom and this bap,
Yep.
your spirit is gonna be fed, right? And that was such a fun time. I've always been a hype guy, so I was a guy that would run and jump off the speakers, man. And I'm that guy that that would run and step over pews. Back then, I'm glad people didn't have cell phones to record everything, because I'm sure I would have been on a few bloopers. But anyway, man, you just fast forward, and through all of that, God was just developing me for things to come, and through all of that, I was still in the military,
Mm.
full time, you know, uh, which was a blessing to me and my family. But just through all of those were spiritual formidable years for me. I even deployed during that time in 2006. I don't know
Wow.
if I shared about how they had a desert idol like we have an American Idol here.
Mm.
They had a desert idol, and on my way over there, I'll just have to. Is it okay if I share the story?
Oh,
So
please.
on my way over on deployment, I stop in DC at one of my favorite uncles. I spend a couple of days with him. I go to church with him, and this guy spoke over my life and said, "This is not a deployment." He was like, "This is spiritual." He said, "I see a bubble around you where God is going to encompass you and make sure that you're safe." But he said, "This is a mission trip for you." This is what he tells me. And then he goes on to say that people are going to know you before you get there. Now, I mean, I was a Christian rapper traveling around in America, but I wasn't like popular or famous like that, right? So I'm thinking, what is this guy talking about? So I get there, Kondo, I get there. This is October of 2006. When I arrived to this base, we're talking about Ali Salim in Kuwait. Half the base knew who I was.
What?
So this is what happened. There was a guy there that I was replacing, and they had been talking about this desert idol. So he went over there saying, he was one of my friends. He went over there making sure that everyone knew that I was going to be in Desert Idol. And then he's running around with my CD showing everybody a rapper is coming over here. A rapper is coming. It's almost like they said, when that happened with Jesus, right? He was like, a rapper is coming. He's a real artist. You can go to his website. In 2006, it was a big deal if you had a
Yeah,
website,
absolutely.
right? So anyway, with him doing that, and I didn't even sign up for this Desert Idol. With him doing that, half the base knew me when I got on base. And when I tell you that it put me in a prime position
Mm.
for it to be a missionary field, to tell them about Jesus, because I was the only Christian. I was the only one doing Christian music in this Desert Idol, and I was the only one doing original music. So everyone else was doing covers.
Wow.
I'm doing original music, and I came in second place, but I remember getting a standing ovation. But that was just another moment. That was a formidable year. Those was formidable years for me to be where I'm at today. And I just think it's kind of hard for me to skip over that, because it was such a process of learning humility, learning how to handle crowds, learning how to handle all the accolades, and what I learned as traveling as a Christian rapper, I had an amazing mentor named Nick Smith that told me, he said, whenever you get alone, after those moments of praise, when it's just you lift
Mm.
your hands to the heavens and
Mm.
you say, Lord, all the praise, all the accolades, all the great words that were spoken to me, I give them to you.
Amen.
So that's something I practiced early, and I
Mm.
still do it today. I still do it today. That deals a blow to the flesh to keep you humble
Yep.
and to know that it's not
Amen.
you, it's God. So anyway, I just kind of had to tell that part, to get to where we at. But those are formidable years for me for sure.
Man, thank you for not skipping that part to hear from the courtroom to the living room, and God literally speaks a word over your life and then sends a hype man for the hype man ahead of you to the
Yeah.
Middle East. It's crazy, man, to see the doors that he's opened, the way he clearly marked you and called you
Yeah.
um, to represent him in so many different spaces. And for somebody who remembers the era when Christian rap and hip hop was coming on the scene. Thank you for your part in that.
Yes, sir.
For those of us and for the generation that needed, and honestly, also for the excellence piece, where that was the beginning for me of this era where it wasn't like, oh, it's either good music or it's Christian music. I remember this era. It's like, oh no,
Yeah.
it is God's music, and it's going to be the best. It's going to be the highest quality. It's going to be
Yes.
excellent. We're not
Yes.
saying we're settling for some subpar way to represent God, which again blows my mind with some of the places he's put you, even OSU, as a man
Yes,
of
sir.
faith, and yet here you are,
Yeah.
representing him in places of incredible excellence and spotlight and things of that sort. So thank you for sharing that. I
Yes,
did
sir.
not know that piece of the story at
Yeah.
all. So, man, let me ask this. We are even in this podcast thinking through some of the next generation. And I know, like we've said, the next generation is a passion for you. In fact, a passion to see the next generation do better than we've done, to go further than
Absolutely.
what we've gone, and not to be threatened, but to celebrate that. And for a lot of the youth, the young ones coming up, your story is powerful in that, man, you're an artist. You're standing on big stages under bright lights, and that's the dream, to be an athlete, a superstar who stands on big stages under bright lights and is known everywhere and can't go to the mall without people knowing who that person is. And yet, man, I know one of your passions for the next generation is that there would be some thought about, well, yeah, that's great, but have you taken time to think about what happens when the ball stops? What happens
Yes.
when, man, the sports world stops and they've moved on to the next person, and you go to the mall and no one remembers who you are? Who are you, and have you thought about that? And I know that's a big part of what you're speaking into the next generation. Would love to hear some of your perspective on that.
Yeah. Let's think about this. Let's put this in context. You have a young lady or a young man who started playing sports at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then if you're think about it, if you're really good enough where you end up going to the next level, which is a university playing in a sport, that means that you was probably a standout at the age of 10, 12, 15, 17. And then most of the cheers that you're getting and most of the attention you're getting in your life, which, let's be real, we all like attention to a
Yeah.
certain extent, right? You're getting that through the gift that you're using, basketball, football, soccer, tennis, whatever that may be. So you go through an entire life of benefits, attention, fame, all of that to college, and then once you get to college, it's that times 10.
Yeah.
So it's easy for anyone to get caught up in their identity being in that gift, right? It's easy for them to say, this is my thing. But I've shared with many student athletes that the drums was my first love. I'm 45 now. I haven't touched the drum since I was 26.
Oh man, amazing. Yep.
So think about this. How small of a God would it be that we serve for him to give me one gift to last a quarter of my life? So when I speak to young people, I try to get them to see that you have gifts with an S and you have
Ooh.
talents with an S, right? And you have to be the one that don't bury your gift and understand that God is giving you talents more than one. And it's your job and your duty to, one, in his glory, give that back to him and multiply those gifts and talents, right? Well,
Amen.
with the multiplication, it helps one to learn that my identity is not in this ball. My identity is not in this tennis racket. My identity is not in this baseball. which again, I can see how that would be really hard to navigate through in real time because we like attention,
The
right?
accolades. Yeah.
The accolades. But the thing is, the key word you said is when the ball stops. Who are you? What are you becoming? Are
Mm.
you working towards that? Because if you're an athlete, you've already developed discipline, right? You've already learned. They told you when to eat, how much to eat, when to
Yep.
show up, when to go to class. You got tutors, you have all these things. And then when you walk across stage, it's like you got to look in the mirror and say, man, I don't have 15 people pushing me anymore. So it's important that in those moments of all the attention, that one's identity understand that it cannot be in what they do, but who they serve.
Mm.
And who
Mm.
are you serving, young men and young women? Who are you
Mm.
serving? Are you serving this? Are you serving social media?
Oof.
Are you serving the football? Are you serving the coach? Are you serving the fans? Are you serving Jesus? Because all those things I named will 100% let you down.
Yes, sir.
It's only one person in this world that will never let you down, and that's
Mm.
Jesus.
Mm.
So navigating through that can be a challenge. I'll share with you my son, great basketball player. When he was, you remember the movie Waterboy, when
Yes, sir.
it was like, we can do this, everyone is together once they started winning games, and then the coach pulled him to the side and said, Bobby, we cannot win without you, right? So when my son was in elementary, he was that dude. Like
Mm.
he was so good that people thought that he was 2 or 3 years older, not by size,
Yeah,
but
but
just
still.
because he was so
Yeah.
good, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was tall, but it was because he was so good.
Mm-hmm.
And people will always say, "Oh, we're gonna see you on TNT. You going to the NBA? Blah blah blah. All these different
Mm.
type of things or whatever." And so, because of that, he started getting attention, right? And then other teams started courting him and wanting him to be on their team. Oh, you're that good. You can play up. So my son in third grade, I'm just telling you the Thomas household perspective, identity, right? Third grade, my son played on a team. They practiced Monday, Friday, and games were on the weekends. Well, they asked my son to play up, right? So then that meant a practice on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then games on the weekend. Now, last time I checked, it was 4 of us in the household. Our life didn't evolve around one person.
Mm.
I'm just being frank. Like, I love my children. I love my wife. I love myself. But none of us should be in a position where you're dictating everything that the family is doing. Now, I'm not saying don't be in the gym. I get that. That's part of life. But what I'm saying is that 4 days a week we were gonna be in the gym, and one of those days was gonna be all day. So what I did was I told them, I said, my son will come to practice 2 days a week, and we'll come to the game on a weekend. Right now, even though I cut back on practice, my son was still starting, and they were still yelling, "Throw Les the ball." My son's name is Les as well.
Yes, sir.
Throw Les the ball. The coach literally would say, "Throw Les the ball." Now, some of the parents started getting bothered
Yep.
by this, and they
Mm-hmm.
didn't like it because he's not coming to all the practices, and he's starting, and he's getting the attention and this and that or whatever. And what I did was I pulled all the parents together at a practice one day because leaders have tough conversations, right? I put all the parents
Ooh.
together, and I told them, I said, I appreciate everyone's concern about my son not being at all the practices. I said, but it's something y'all need to know that basketball is not going to use my son up. My son is going to use basketball. And
Yes,
furthermore,
sir.
I broke that down to them to say that his identity and his life cannot be. Back then, that's when they were saying ball is life. No, it's not. Ball is
No,
not
it's
life.
not.
Ball is not. It's a part
Come
of
on.
life,
Come on.
right?
Come on.
You had the shirts, you had the N1 back then and all that going
Yep.
crazy. And in that moment, I made sure that my son, when I had that
Mm.
conversation with the parents, you know where my son was? I didn't send him to the car. I'm teaching my son to be a leader, and I'm teaching him order, right? So my son is standing there right there with me
Wow.
while I'm having this grown conversation, letting them know. Because I didn't want my son to feel like I was holding him back. I'm letting them know in front of him that my son is going to use basketball. Basketball is not going to use him, right? So my son had this father that walked with him that ended up being all state. So my son came out the same year as Trey Young. If you know anything about basketball, you know Trey Young,
Yes, sir.
Atlanta Hawks. This is how good my son was. They came out the same year, and Prep Hoops, which was the big basketball,
Yep.
magazine,
Yep.
everything, they rated my son as the best shooter in Oklahoma. And he played the same year and
That's
came out. That shows you
that's
how good he
amazing.
could hoop.
Yep.
He shot 49% from the three, shooting over 100 threes his senior year. The dude can hoop, windmill,
Mm.
everything. So I don't say that to put the attention on his gift, but I say
Yeah.
that to say this, that through all of that, he had a father who said, son, even though in many people's eyes you are great,
Yeah.
he had Stanford coming in to watch him, Pepperdine, University of Chicago. We went to Princeton. Princeton wanted him to go there because he could speak Mandarin Chinese fluently by the time he was a senior in high school, right? And so, smart
What?
kid,
Yep.
smart kid. But you know what dad did whenever my son got straight A's? And now, I just had a knee replacement, but I'm about to kind of show you. I won't get up, but I'll show you.
Yeah.
When my son hit a three, his dad did what? Oh, let's go, let's go. When my son came home with an A, you know what his dad did? Let's go. Come on, boy, you
Amazing.
better bring them.
Amazing.
And it was
Amazing.
because I
Yep.
didn't want my son to lean
Gifts.
towards I get the best love whenever I
Mm-hmm.
hit
Yep.
whenever the basketball go through the net. No, you get the best love through all things, son. You
Yep.
know why? Because your identity is not in any of that, man.
It's woo. Lance,
Fast forward. Go ahead. Go ahead.
incredible.
Now you go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
Go
I'm
ahead.
just saying, man. I'm waiting for the Thomases take the court book to come out, man, because your mom stood in that courtroom and
Mm-hmm.
said a word that reverberated in front of everybody.
Yes.
Dad stands on a court and says a word for his son that reverberates in front of everybody. I'm just saying there's a court theme here, man, and you I cannot wait to see how, man, Les Jr.'s story is marked by that moment of leadership, and we are not going to be pressured
Yes.
by, the expectations of the Joneses and what everybody else is
Mm-mm.
saying and identity. And I can't even imagine for a parent, if I was sitting there, man, it would have been this beautiful reprimand and reminder. Like, man, I've made this a little bit too much about something that is not
Yeah.
ultimately about. But man, I'm gonna let you fast forward, but I'm just goosebumps, man. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
What the hope is that parents that are listening, I'm not saying that I have the blueprint, but I'll just say that's what worked for us.
Hmm.
And I'm hoping that young people are listening, they understand that you can't put all the old folks say you can't put all your eggs in one basket,
Yeah.
right? Like, if I'm gonna put all my eggs in one basket, it's got to be the basket that Jesus created.
Amen.
If I put all my eggs in that basket, everything else will work out. So my son went on to play basketball in college, and then graduated. COVID, his senior year, COVID hit, right, and that was a challenging time for many athletes because the stadium went from being
Yeah.
80%, 90%, 100% full to 20%.
Yeah.
Right. So my son didn't even get to really play basketball his senior year, right? And something clicked in him. Like, COVID for many people was a big challenge, which I 100% understand.
Mhm.
But for my son, when COVID hit, all the words that his father and mother told him about basketball can't be like,
Ooh.
it clicked, And I'm gonna tell you this: my son graduated. He really finished in 3.5 years. He then got his master's by the age of 23. He's 25 now. He worked for Boeing. Now he works for Lockheed Martin in Florida at the age of 25. He got his master's and he's working on a KC 34 or 47 or something plane at the age of 25 and when he got his
Amazing.
master's. So my thing is right
Yep.
now, Kondo, I'm gonna tell you right now,
Yeah, man.
my son still had another year of eligibility, really two, because of COVID. Now he could have said, you know what, I'm gonna go play basketball, and I would have been okay with that.
Mhm.
But you know what he said? Nah, I'm gonna go do life. Nah, I'm gonna go ahead and start this life thing because basketball would delay what God has for me now in this next life. You hear me?
Oh,
Many people
incredible.
will choose the ball because that's what they know,
Yes.
but because my son understood that there was more to life,
Yes.
he said, "Let me go ahead and start life." And so, at the age of he worked for Boeing for a year, and now he works for Lockheed Martin at the age of 25 with his master's. And I'm not saying like he's the perfect person, but what I am saying is that he understood that what my parents was showing me about my identity cannot be in this ball. There's people today who I haven't seen in a long time, and they're like, "Man,
Mm.
your son playing basketball? Did he go professional and all that?" I'm like, nah, he did better than that.
Yes. He went professional, but not like that. Yeah, man. That's incredible.
He went professional in life.
Yep.
He didn't try to live out this dream that everyone else had
Yep.
for him. Message. Everyone else had this dream for him,
Yep.
but he didn't go for the dream that everyone else had for him. He had to go for the dream that God placed on inside of himself. And so, Lecrae got the song after the music stopped. He said, "What's
Mm.
next? What's then?"
Yeah.
Right. So it's like after the ball stops, because it stops for everyone, even if you go
It
to the
just
next
does.
level and go professional. Right. What's the expectancy of most people that play football, basketball, all of that? Right. Mid-30s, early 30s. You still got. Come on, you're not even at halftime yet. If
Nope.
we speaking on sports, what then? And so that's why, again, that's why I share with them that drums was my first love. I played it professionally
Yep.
as a teenager. Whenever Timothy Wright, Shirley Caesar, and them came into Oklahoma City, I would play for them. Right. I haven't played since I was 26. And since then, I've become an author, a youth pastor. I'm a hype man at Oklahoma State
Yes.
University. I serve on many boards. I'm on a board right now, governor appointed.
Oof.
Those things happen after I stopped playing the drums. What would have happened if I would have looked at the drums after the age of 26 and I just say, "Man, remember when," and I didn't do anything else with my life.
That's just, man, this is the conversation I want to have better with my kids. And man, what you said, this is the applause I want them to hear when they are stepping into areas of giftedness or into the areas Jesus is calling them, as opposed to, well, the community has said you are a basketball player, or man, the community says you are a musician. I loved what you said about gifts, and you just dragged out that S, or dreams, and you just dragged out that S,
Yeah.
as opposed to this is who I am, this is what I am, and this is what identifies and defines me. And that's exactly the story and the message our generation wants to live out and pass along a little bit better to the generation beyond this. And again, the legacy you've carried down is just beautiful, humbling, man. I'm going to be thinking about this for a long time. Your mom, who stepped into your story and said, you are not the mistake you made. You are not that thing that happened to you.
Yeah.
Boy, let me tell you, I believe God has great things. And she didn't disclose all of them because she
Yeah.
didn't know. She couldn't have known.
Yeah.
And I love that that's the same message. You're saying you are not a basketball player. You are not you will do great things. And to me, just opening that door for the next generation and pointing them to a little bit a little bit more. And we've seen obviously the impact of that. And that's the story I think a lot of athletes and musicians don't talk about, the where are they
Yeah.
now stories, like
Yeah.
what is happening when the music fades, what's happening when the ball stops, if we have not done a great job speaking into that and preparing them for that.
Yeah.
I'm so, so thankful that you get to do that. And you get to do that as somebody who works at a D1 school where sports are a big deal and you're in the
Big
middle
deal.
of it, but yet refusing to perpetuate the story that that is all you are and that is the end of life and legacy. Man, I'm just blown away, man, humbled by what the Lord is doing in you and through you. And so right now you do get to work with youth, and I love it, man. With the story
Mhm.
you have, there's not a single teen, troubled or otherwise, who gets to say to you, yeah, Les, you're saying that because you had a cushy life you don't understand. It's like, nope. Well, you're just saying that because you didn't have any opportunities to become a hip hop artist. Nope. Well, you're just saying that because you haven't made it, and nope, not that either. I love that every argument a young person could have for you, your life has defied, and God has said, you get to speak to anybody and everybody, but it's
Yes,
not
sir.
been easy to get here. It's pretty beautiful, man.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm very thankful, and like I shared with you before we started recording, my life is an open book. I believe I live by this. If you want to impress people, you share your victories. If you want to impact people, you share your challenges. And
Mm,
so,
mm,
those challenges as a young person, those challenges as a young man early in my
mm.
wife and our marriage, help create who I am today. And I don't run away from them. I don't shy away from them. And, as I'm talking to young people, be it, as one of the directors at Urban Bridge over here on the northeast side of Oklahoma City, or, as the hype man, at Oklahoma State University, regardless, I always open my life up and I share with them that, these things that I did, good and bad, they don't define me, and my identity is not in that. When I'm in front of 60,000 people at OSU, I ask God. Now, this is the kid with the speech impediment
All right, come on,
that's in front of
man.
60,000
Come
people,
on. Yeah.
right? I use the weak things of the what to put the come on,
Mm,
right? And so
mm.
the thing that everyone made fun of ended up being a strength of mine.
Amazing.
And when I'm there, my desire, and I pray this, is that God used me in this capacity, and that the joy that's inside of me, people will know that it's from Him, that this opportunity that I have is from Him.
Amen.
And I will tell you that, when I'm at a game hyping them up, doing all the fun stuff, I'd never say Jesus on a microphone.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you this, them people know though. You
Yes.
see, it's like,
Yes.
in fact, I shared a story not too long ago about how I come out of the same gate, every year. And this past football season, the very first game, this guy stops me, right? And he says to me, he said, Les, I've been trying to figure you out. This is your seventh season, right? He knew it was my seventh season. He said, I've been trying to figure you out. And he said, the joy that you have is not
Mm.
normal.
Oh, come on.
This is what he said. He
Yes.
said,
Yeah.
I found out what it is. He said, you make the Jesus in my heart leap. That's what he said. He said, you make the Jesus in my heart leap. He said, all this time, everyone else in the stadium think that you just gifted. You got a
Yeah.
lot of energy. You're hyped. He said, nah, that joy right there that's in that man cannot come from anything of this world. So he said, you make the Jesus in my heart leap, which means he recognized the fruit of the Spirit. He recognized that even though I never said Jesus in our microphone, he knew and figured out what it was. And here it is. I'm in tears before the game. I'm supposed to be getting ready for the game. But that right there to me was a top one of the best compliments I get all the time. Oh, you killed it. You had a lot of
Yeah.
energy. You were great. That's cool. But
Yeah.
when someone says, I see the Jesus in you, it's because of God you're doing what you're doing. And that's the greatest compliment in the world. You know, so that's the thing that young people that's playing sports need to see. That even though you are killing it, you
Yes.
are at the top of your game.
Yeah.
You are on front of the newspaper. You are in the news. You are on ESPN. But when they say who you are, what will they say? Will they see
That's
the
it.
Jesus in you? Even though you
That's
never
it.
say, Jesus, Jesus. You don't hit a baseball saying Jesus. But will they say, hey, that young man right there, high character. That young lady right there, she loves people. She's sweet. She's nice. He's humble. I mean, like, those are fruits of the spirit. So those type of things end up outweighing all the amazing things that the world say is great, because high character, love, humility, all that is more important than anything else. Imagine having that and great talent.
Yes.
Put them together.
Yes.
Come on, somebody.
Come on. That's it. I don't even know what to say to that, man. That's absolutely incredible. And that's the message we would love to live. And that's the message we want to see, man, thousands and thousands and thousands catch on to. You can impress a lot of people with a lot of things, but ultimately impact, and the ultimate impact is Jesus. I love that. I am light at OSU, even though I never say light or speak certain words, and yet, man, hope is shining through. And man, I am so thankful for you, my brother. I'm so inspired, encouraged, humbled, and cannot wait for every single person listening to be inspired, humbled, encouraged as well, man. Thank you. Thank you for your time, man. It's been pretty amazing. Epically amazing.
Thank you for it. It humbles me to be able to get on here and share my story. I'm thankful, and I'm easily reminded about the goodness of God, man. And Kondo, I appreciate you sharing your space with me and giving me this opportunity.
Absolutely, man. Blessings, and cannot wait to continue to shine hope together, man. This has been pretty amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to the KondoSpeaks podcast, powered by Agatas. Now, Agatas exists to use athletics to provide opportunities for leadership and personal development, and ultimately real life change through Christ. Did you love this episode? Of course you did. So why don't you go ahead and head to your favorite streaming platform to subscribe or to rate and even leave us a review, which we would so appreciate. Plus, that way you won't miss any of the new content which drops every week. And would encourage you to head on over to KondoSpeaks.com to join the conversation, access the show notes, discover other bonus content, and learn more about our sponsor. KondoSpeaks is edited and produced by In the Loop and hosted by me, Kondo Simfukwe. Don't forget, join us right back here next week for another exciting episode. Until then, stay curious, my friends.